that, we're joined from North London by Richard Ferrer, editor of the Jewish News, and from Westminster by the journalist and author Rachel Shabi. Thank you both for your time. Rachel, starting with you, what do you want to see Labour do today? If they do adopt all of those examples, will it help solve the problem?
It will definitely be a start. I mean, this has been a very deep and very painful rift, so I don't think anybody is expecting this to be the end of the matter. But I think certainly from the Labour leadership, the hope is that it will be the start of a renewed process of, communication and consultation with the Jewish community. I think it's important to remember as well that the definitions and examples of anti-Semitism for the purpose of disciplinary process is significant and important, but it's not enough in and of itself. Anti-Semitism, just like any other prejudice or racism, is not dealt with just by disciplinary processes. It's dealt with, it's a wider, longer project that's to do with awareness, it's to do with training, it's to do with creating a culture, actually promoting a culture in which people don't feel that they have to face or that they are facing prejudice and discrimination. So that is a much bigger story and a wider project. And I think the hope is that today will mark the start of an engagement with Jewish organisations over that process.
Richard, do you think that is the case, and do you think the engagement will come?
Well, I mean, I hope Rachel is right. I hope this is the start of the end of three tumultuous, an ordeal for the Jewish community that they never really wanted to be in the middle of. But I wouldn't pass the smelling salts just yet. The devil's going to be in the details. This will be IHRA in the next few hours, but it won't be the IHRA that the Jewish community is expecting. There will be riders, caveats, wiggle room that allows party leaders and party members to attack Israel in ways that no other country would allow to be attacked. Accusations of Zionism equals Nazism and Israel being a racist endeavour. These are the things that cut to the very heart of the existential threat posed by the Labour Party to the Jewish community, and I fear these will not be addressed this afternoon.
Okay, Rachel, there's some big accusations there. Existential threat to Jewish people from the Labour Party, and Richard saying that he thinks that any caveats made or any additional paragraphs open the door. What do you think?
Well, first of all, I don't think the Labour Party presents an existential threat to Jewish people. But I do think, look, the thing about the IHRA examples is they are important in and of themselves, but they're also a carrier. They are emblematic of a breakdown in communication and trust between the Labour leadership and Jewish community. I think that there are enough reasonable people amongst the Jewish community and amongst the Labour leadership. Had this been addressed, there's enough reasonable people in the Jewish community to say, you know what, we do understand that there are concerns around free speech, around the right of Palestinians to describe their own experience of Israel from the beginning to the present day. We understand that is real. It's not a ruse. It's a valid concern that has to be addressed. Had that conversation happened, had there been a consultation, we probably wouldn't have seen this process escalate to the degree that it has.
Richard, does full adoption of the 11 examples allow for space of criticism by Israel by the Palestinian people?
Absolutely it does, and it also allows criticism of Israel from me, from the Jewish community, from the Jewish News. Of course it does. It just doesn't allow for you to say that Israel is a racist endeavour at its inception in 1948. You absolutely cannot criticise the people and its place in the world. By all means, criticise its Prime Minister and its policies, just as I, as an editor of a Jewish newspaper, have in the last few months criticised the nation-state bill, settlements, policies in Hebron and Gaza, our attitudes towards the Bedouin community. These are issues that we grapple and wrestle with every day, as every nation must. But to absolutely describe the nation-state of the Jews as somehow illegitimate, as any other nation is never described, is truly atrocious, utterly unforgivable. But unfortunately, it's what the Labour leader currently believes.
Rachel, do you think that's what the Labour leader actually thinks?
No, and as I say, I think there were always enough reasonable people in the room, both from the Labour leadership and the Jewish community, to be able to grapple with exactly those issues that Richard is talking about. And the fact that that didn't happen is a case of bad management. You know, there was a process of trust that broke down. The Labour leadership was not seen to be dealing with this issue quickly, swiftly, or seriously. Now, I think that Jeremy Corbyn now has an opportunity to lead on this issue. He is the leader of the largest progressive party in Europe. He has an opportunity to explain that, yes, there is a blind spot in the left, in an element of the left, over anti-Semitism. It's not the majority, it's not everyone, it's not even a majority, but it is there, and it is loud, and it is offensive, and it is alienating to a lot of people. It is a lack of ability to see Jewish people as a racialized minority, just like any other, but with its own very particular pernicious form of prejudice. Now, Jeremy Corbyn has the opportunity to lead on this, to set a tone, to explain what this blind spot has been. And I think the hope is that he will now take that opportunity.
Richard, I just want to ask you, we don't have much time left, but I do want to ask about what you've made of Benjamin Netanyahu's intervention in this. He's just said that Jeremy Corbyn deserved unequivocal condemnation a short time ago when we were talking about the laying of that wreath. Benjamin Netanyahu is also happily meeting President Rodrigo Duterte, who had said that I'd be happy to slaughter the Jews, compared himself to Hitler indeed. He's been meeting Viktor Orban, who's of course been accused of employing anti-Semitism himself. Does Benjamin Netanyahu, is he inconsistent with his condemnation, and he does it when it politically suits him?
Netanyahu is an incredibly controversial figure amongst British Jews and around the world. He is seen as somebody who's not an ideal leader of a democracy in the Middle East or anywhere else, and I've been very forthright in my condemnation of him. When he intervened in this whole issue a few weeks ago, I think Jeremy Corbyn actually sighed a breath of relief here, because this was a conversation he was happy to have. This is criticism I think he actually welcomes, because it's not constructive criticism. Yes, I think Jeremy Corbyn is more happy having an argument with Netanyahu than he is having an argument with the Jewish community in Britain, because that's an argument he can win.
Okay, Richard Ferrer, Rachel Shabi, thank you both for your time.